Testing, testing. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Bwtmonline. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button. Check us out at www.bwtmonline.com. We update the website every week with the latest news, views, interviews, features, and all the rest of it. So here we go. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, but here we go. Deontay versus Luis Ortiz is scheduled or rumored to be scheduled to happen on September the 28th, 2019. Why is this fight happening? I think this fight is happening for a number of reasons, mostly around social media and people who can't stick to an opinion. You remember in my previous preview to this fight, people were telling me Luis Ortiz is the most dangerous heavyweight in the world. Luis Ortiz is best boxer in the world. Luis Ortiz is one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division. Luis Ortiz was like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis, Joe Louis, George Foreman, all wrapped in one. If you'd listened to some people over the internet, and you think that Luis Ortiz had a massive fan base, and he really was a spectacular boxer puncher. And, you know, he was this young lion ripping through the heavyweight division. Well, that's if you listen to the drivel that's on across social media, people who don't really understand boxing, or people who just piggy bank on what promoters say. This is how I see the story. Luis Ortiz is a good boxer, right? Good southpaw boxer puncher. He was never the best in a Cuban heavyweight. Mike Perez was rated higher than him. Secondly, he's older than what is advertised. I think if you do your own research, if you go back and listen to the interview I did with Amir Mansour a couple of years back, we broke the story about how old Luis Ortiz is, and then that was followed up as well by Rick Glazier. You just have to look at the amateur teams that Luis Ortiz was around to have a better idea of what his age is. Regardless of that point about his age, he still is a good boxer and would beat a lot of the fighters around today. For all the talk of Luis Ortiz and all the talk of how dangerous he is, when Anthony Joshua had the opportunity to fight him, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom made it very clear to swerve him out of the way by signing Ortiz up and sending him on a merry-go-round of fighting the likes of Dave Allen. No disrespect, Dave Allen, Malik Scott, after having a good profile with after fighting Bryant Jennings and a few other decent heavyweights in the world. His profile was going like this in the heavyweight division. And then Eddie got his hands on him after leaving Golden Boy and set him on this wild goose chase out somewhere, boxing and not really utilizing the abilities and the actual and building Luis Ortiz's name. Really didn't do him any favors. That fight out in south of France, he was fighting against Malik Scott in a boring fight. A fight against Dave Allen, whom, you know, at the time was trying to make a name for himself, but really wasn't at that level. And, you know, Luis Ortiz beating Dave Allen didn't prove anything. Apart from Luis Ortiz could punch and he could box, and he was a level above Dave Allen. But then here come the biased people within boxing. When Deontay Wilder found himself hurt by Luis Ortiz, not dropped, hurt by Ortiz. And Ortiz, everyone acknowledges, is a big puncher, okay? Everyone acknowledges Luis Ortiz is a big puncher. So you have people that come out on social media. And talk about Luis Ortiz. And talk about let me just do something there so I can so I'm not distracted. I just blocked off my chat, so I'm not distracted. Right, there are people that talk about Luis Ortiz, and they talk about people coming and say, "Oh, well, you know, if it wasn't for the doctor, well, you know, if it wasn't for a ref, you know, he gave a Wilder standing count." I mean, nobody actually says in all that, you know, Wilder took some big punches from Ortiz. You know, he took some good shots. They don't say that. They don't say that because people have this is people that talk with agendas. You have to listen to people. People who've got agendas don't see the full picture. People with agendas just speak from what they see and that's it. They don't see the full picture. They don't see the whole story. Unfortunately, people with agendas seem to have big platforms to sell what the agenda is, and people buy that agenda. Predominantly, the experts who are paid by promoters or paid by the TV company to sell the pay-per-view. So if Joshua is their boy, then it is not the narrative to promote anybody else but Anthony Joshua. Understand this. So now if you've got writers that are associated with the promoter or the promotional team, selling Deontay Wilder is not key. All right? Everyone talks about that Joshua, that Wilder situation. But nobody talks about the Joshua stoppage with Takam. Nobody talks about the fact that Takam was stopped by phantom punches or punches that were missing, and the referee stopped the fight when Takam was in a fit state to continue. Chisora's knockout was a clean knockout. Takam looked in good state. When Takam got knocked up by Povetkin, he got laid out. When he knocked out by Chisora, he got laid out. Against Joshua, it looked like Joshua was tiring, and the referee stopped the fight for I don't know what. But fans don't talk about that because these are the same fans that knocked Deontay Wilder. But let's put things in perspective. Yes, Deontay Wilder was hurt. And yes, you could say that the referee, you could say the referee gave Deontay Wilder a few seconds to recover. You could say that. But you could also say the referee with Tyson Fury, again, biased opinions, when Tyson Fury was on the canvas, it was a slow count. If Deontay Wilder knocked Tyson Fury out for that fight, you wouldn't be getting the rematch now. And you wouldn't get the clamour. And Tyson Fury at top rank wouldn't be going where he is today because people would have said Wilder knocked out Fury. So if you're going to go across the spectrum and say, oh yeah, Wilder and the doctor, then please do the same thing with Fury and Wilder, and do the same thing with Joshua and the stoppage with Takam, or go even further along if you want to go along that way and talk about Meldrick Taylor. Some of you don't even know that fight. Meldrick Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez about poor stoppages. Let's talk about that. Chavez, one of the greatest fighters, unbeaten at the time, and Meldrick Taylor was handing him his ass. Oh, 2 seconds from Richard Steele stops the fight. Let's talk about that if you want to talk about stoppages. So we could go on all day about stoppages and referees getting involved and all the rest of it. The bottom line is this rematch is happening because of people like you. People like you that can't see and can't understand or can't get into your brains that this rematch is bad news for Luis Ortiz. Very bad news for Luis Ortiz. Going into the fight for Deontay Wilder, I believe he was at his lowest weight for that fight. He was not well for the fight. We're going to know in the rematch. But I don't expect this fight to go anything more than 5 rounds. I expect to see Ortiz completely wiped out in this fight. I don't think this fight goes 5 rounds. The one thing I say is this. I look at the reaction as to what happens when Wilder hits Ortiz on the chin. Wilder hits Ortiz in the chin. Ortiz goes down. Went down twice in the fight. Went down early in the fight, if you remember. And then he got dropped later on in the fight. That was a Deontay Wilder who wasn't as well as he could have been. The rematch will be different. Wilder will be fit. Wilder will be strong. I think he'll put on a few more pounds for this fight. And I expect him to go out there and absolutely destroy Ortiz. Ortiz is too slow of foot and too slow of hand. And Wilder is actually getting better with his jab and landing punch with that right hand. That jab is getting much better. And if you look at Deontay Wilder, his performance is getting better. So either as a fan, make a choice. Is Ortiz one of the best heavyweights in the world? If you talk, some people like to say, "Oh, Wilder's ducking Joshua." Well, you know what fan base they're from. Oh, Wilder's ducking Fury. Duck Fury went and signed with Top Rank. Okay. Oh, Wilder doesn't want to fight Dillian Whyte. I don't know if that's anything to do with Deontay Wilder himself. But if you're going to be that, if you're going to go down that road, then why don't you look at Mauricio Suleiman and the whole WBC franchise champion? The WBC are a law unto their own self, will do what they want, when they like, how they feel. Dillian Whyte was number one contender. Dominic Brazil moved ahead of him and ended up fighting. Dillian Whyte's been fighting the who's who of the heavyweight division. And Dominic Brazil had been fighting the who's that of the heavyweight division. And that's it. So that's how the WBC award their number one contender. They keep him waiting for 600 days. And the great promoter has still got no closer to a title shot. And I don't even believe that title shot through the WBC will happen. I've said it for countless of months now. I've been saying it for almost a year. Dillian Whyte should be going on a WBA route and probably trying to get a fight against Trevor Bryant because he, I think, will beat Manuel Shah. That's where Dillian Whyte should be going to fight for the title. I've been saying this for the longest while, but nobody wants to listen to me. They want to keep on listening to the drivel that the promoter keeps talking about. And you look at the ticket sales for Whyte versus Rivas and ask yourself the question, why Whyte versus Rivas is not selling. Understand this, because you are on a social media platform and you do loads of interviews, it does not equal fans buying tickets to your fights. This has been proven over and over again. Okay? So does being on a big YouTube platform equal being a big ticket seller? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Quite frankly, it doesn't. This is truth here. And so, you know, there is a, for me, Dillian Whyte should be with either Frank Warren or he should have gone to Top Rank. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I've said this before. I'll say it again, you know, but carry on believing in fairy tales, you know. This fight again against Rivas is a dangerous fight. Whyte has been down before in his career. Rivas punches with both hands. And I think it's a dangerous fight. The one concern about Rivas, as I've said before in my previews, and I'll say it again, is Rivas in his eye. I'm a little concerned about Rivas' eye and whether you can see it at both eyes. That's the only thing I'm concerned about with Oscar Rivas. He does punch with both hands. And we'll see how this fight works out. But anyway, I expect Deontay Wilder to absolutely... I said it the first time. I said I expected Wilder to destroy Ortiz in the first time. I see it again, but I say even faster still. But what will happen is, I'll tell you now what's going to happen. The people that said that Ortiz was one of the best fighters in the world will retract that and say Ortiz is an old man and a bum if Wilder knocks him out. Well, he stopped him before, he stopped him again. But you're the same people that turned around and said that the referee saved Wilder from Ortiz knocking him out. So Ortiz gets a second chance to make a first impression. Okay? Oh, but Ortiz is an old man. Ortiz was an old man before that. Okay? Ortiz, people got to make your minds up. If Ortiz is an old man for Deontay Wilder, he's an old man for Dillian Whyte, right? But there are people, some sections of the media that say, oh, well, Dillian Whyte needs to prove himself against Ortiz. But actually, if you ask these people, who has Ortiz for to have all this celebration? Who is he for? Who is he beat? Who's the biggest name on Luis Ortiz's record for him to be a killer? And then when you track that back, you'll find that it's okay heavyweights, decent heavyweights, but no killers. No killers. Okay, so, you know, and how many world champions has Ortiz beat? None to my reckoning. Now we've got to look at Ortiz has beat. I'll have to look at a little closer and see. But my point is, lose Ortiz, this fight is happening because people are not satisfied with the first fight. It's a small crowd of people. By and large, most people know that Deontay Wilder is a far better fighter, younger fighter than Ortiz, and I expect him to drill him. Similar to how, unfortunately, he did with Stavern and Brazil. Maybe a little longer because Ortiz is technically better than those two guys, but he's still there to get hit, and he's old and he's slowing down. So I expect him to get connected with quicker. So I said within the first 5. So I'm giving Ortiz credit. I think Ortiz is a gatekeeper for the heavyweight division, but nothing more than that, for my opinion. If you're going to say something's really good, then fine. He's a good boxer, but he's not what everyone marks him out to be. He doesn't have the fan base. He's an awkward customer. He beats most of the top heavyweights, but I don't rate most of the top heavyweights. So he's a decent heavyweight for this era, but, you know, yeah. So that's it. It's when you come to BWTM online, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to say things to appease and make people feel happy and please people. It's an opinion. It's a different opinion, but yeah, it's still opinion. I respect your own opinions as well, but I just try and be as balanced and as non-biased as possible. Deontay Wilder has his flaws, as does AJ, as we've just recently seen, as does Fury. So they've all been in one way or the other. But, you know, out of all of them, Wilder still hasn't hit the deck the way Fury's hit the deck, the way White's hit the deck, or the way Joshua's hit the deck. So I don't hear anybody talking about that either. Wilder has been down before in his career, but very early in his career. But on big fights of recent times, you don't see that from Wilder. So I just wanted to mention that as well. I don't know when people are going to give this guy his due credit that he is the most dangerous puncher in world boxing, period. And is very fast going down to being one of the all-time great heavyweight punchers. I've said this before, and I'll stand by that. And he's becoming a better boxer. His jab is fast improving. Another thing, if you look at how Wilder's improved from when he started his career to now, you can see improvements. From when Joshua started his career to where he is now, I've not seen any improvements. And as for Tyson Fury, he looks very similar to how he fought when he was with Klitschko. I'm not seeing anything different to his game so far. We'll have to see when he fights Wilder again. That's the test, not against Tom Schwartz. And as for Dillian Whyte, there's a guy who's involved from his professional career started to now. That's a guy who's improved as a heavyweight. But Joshua has not improved as a heavyweight. Same old things, no jab. Dillian Whyte didn't win the Olympic gold medal, didn't have the backing, and he has improved vastly as a heavyweight. A much better heavyweight boxer now, puncher, than Joshua has improved and evolved. And if Joshua had evolved the way he was meant to evolve, he shouldn't have got beat by Andy Ruiz. Plain and simple. But that's my thoughts on it. Hey, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Leave your comments as always. We appreciate you. As always, we appreciate you. Let's see the chat very quickly. That's it. Thank you all for watching. This has been BWTM Online. We're out. Take care.